Sir! Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all are having a fantastic day. I've got some news to share with you guys. I'm a little saddened, but I want to share my news with you. So unfortunately, I'm going to be leaving for Puerto Rico this Thursday. Today is November 29th, 2022. I've got as far as I can on this chassis. I've got as far as I can on my power plant. And a lot of time went into this. I could have gotten further, but there was parts that I needed that were on back order, and I have no control of that. So it is what it is. I ran out of time, so to speak. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask a favor of you guys. I'm going to be gone a little bit, working in Puerto Rico. I'll send you all some videos. A lot of time went into preparing this here chassis, and I'm still obviously preparing it. Please do me a favor, smash that like button, share it with your friends. It really means a lot to me. I could use that extra boost. Trust me, I wanted to, from the bottom of my heart, get this chassis finished and show you guys what I've created. I just have no control over it. A lot of the parts that I need for the front suspension are on back order, and it is what it is. I have no control over it whatsoever. So please do me a favor, check out my older videos. Browse through them, view them. I'm coming up on 1,500 hours. I need 4,000 hours to become monetized. 4,000. So I need a total of 2,500 more hours. Please, when you get some free time, check out my older videos. I may not be the greatest speaker, but I'm learning. This is a brand new channel. I've only been up a year, truly about a year now. I've got over 100 and something videos on there. Take the time, check out my channel. I really appreciate it. Help me get those hours. With that being said, I now introduce to you the Honduki. He's spraying WD-40 on his metal table. What has he got going on? What is he doing? Well, I'll show you in just a second. Just want to give a big thank you to all my new subscribers. I really appreciate you. With that being said, let's get started. So I've got my template that I made out of wood for the original Samurai. Got them all cut out of metal. I'm gonna lay them out on the table. I'm gonna get our rails tacked up. Transfer them over to the table. That's the game plan. This is seam 2. You can see the seam right here. This is the driver's side frame rail. Passenger side frame rail has that seam pointing inwards. So when the chassis is laid out and you look from the side, you will not see a seam. I'm going to start welding these fixtures up to hold the rail in place while I weld the rail up. Let's get started. Now my pieces are locked in. I mean, I can move them a little bit, but once I tack, it should be walking up. 15 inches. 15. 15. Life is good. Before I can start placing the frame rails on the table and start measuring them up, I need to know the absolute width of the Samurai. I'll explain more about that later. We've got our laser center line of the wheel opening on both sides, our notch, center line of the notch, and now we're good to go. And only thing we've got to do is just tweak this a little bit once we secure this together. We can go ahead and make our back rail to connect the two together, put a strengthener in here, and then we can start on our front end. Got to lay that out on cardboard. And just as a reference, our center line matches our center quarter panel. That's great. Looking good. Looking good. When I use this rear in the tin top, I'm ordering new axles. So I just gonna put it together temporarily. It's a golf cart. I'm not gonna go buy, $1,000 axles or $700 axles just for a golf cart. So doesn't make sense. So this is actually my first time building a chassis on a chassis table. It's night and day. There is no comparison. Mr. Acosta, kudos to you, brother, for pointing out that center line, man. It just makes sense. It really just makes sense. Thank you for that heads up. I greatly appreciate it. Man, I'm looking forward to building chassis after chassis, boy. So let me get this rear end torn apart. 56 and a half. Shit. Ready for this? This axle's 56 and a half inches long, and we need to cut 21 inches out of it. 11 and a half, 10 and a half on this side, 10 and a half on this side. 21 inches. Pretty impressive. Our chunk looked like it's seen better days. I'm gonna have to get it cleaned up and inspect it. Everything moves freely. I mean, the only issue I have is the seal up in here is leaking. I've got to replace this seal, so not a big deal. We'll blow this off, get the seal out, get a new seal in, and this housing should be good to go. Rusty. It's okay. I'm not using these axles. Always that one. Yes. Hate it. No, below we know ears. Snake. Who's yes, no. Hey, man. What's now? I got these. Who's trying to sneakers not just. Must like it. We're almost right. Who's never them. Hurry here is open. Yeah, Mr. Food looks says that. I was trying to make a jig to run through the rear to keep the ends centered. Problem on my situation is the axle housing is thicker than the bearing carrier, the weldable bearing carrier. Let's pull this jig apart. So basically, what I've got is a pipe inside of a pipe, inside of a pipe, like so. This pipe slides over this tube, which is 1.5 inches. This one slides over this to slide into this. and everything fit snug with one another, but I just couldn't get it to work. So it's all good, man. Can't say I didn't try. Dude, all these are snug, so it's not a matter of this moving. This isn't the issue. The issue is, yeah, so you can see inside of the housing what I'm talking about now. And I had a great idea, but they aren't permanently welded into the housing. I mean, something's better than nothing, but it didn't work. It failed. Can't say I didn't try. At least I get an A for effort, but whatever, man. Anyway, moving right along. Got our rear mocked up in here. I almost positive I'm gonna need to take these frame rails and bring them in more. I'm almost 99.9% positive because that's no good. Having the axle hub close to the frame, once you bolt on your rear disc brake setup, that is 100% gonna hit. So that's no good. I gotta do some research and look, but I'm almost positive I'm gonna have to move this rear in. So I've set up a jig and a dial indicator because the axle is cut in half, cut 10 inches out of it, actually 10.5 inches. I took some, I believe this is 1-inch DOM, cut a slice in it, put a hose clamp around it, squeezed it together, and all this is doing is checking to see how far this head is out of whack, and it's actually really close. I want to say it's only out about 20 thousandths, if that. So I'm happy with that. Again, this is only being used in the golf cart. I am absolutely not driving this on the highway. So I just want you all to understand that. So now I have a measurement for when I have my axles made at Moser. I've got my dimensions. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld these up, tack this up really well, and then lock it and load it, baby. So originally when I did my measurements for deciding on how the frame rails need to be in the rear, it was based off of drum brakes. You can see the distance between the back side of the drum and the frame is roughly 2 and change. I want to say probably like, I don't know, 2.5 inches. And that's the distance that's needed for the rotor setup when you convert it from drum to disc. So no big deal. We changed our frame dimensions on the table. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Have our jig made to hold our rear in place. Our pinion is set. And that's about it for this. Gentlemen, sir. So, you're staring at a board with a bunch of lines on it, and you're saying to yourself, what in God's creation is this? I'm going to explain it right now in simple terms. This is the complete geometry for the Samurai. This is my center mark, center of the chassis on the frame table. We're going to go with a 24-inch tire, which should give me an 18-inch rim. This line right here represents 12 inches, center of the frame rail. And again, if you're like me and you suck at figuring out angles, what degrees they need to be, it's easier if you just draw it out on the table, connect the dots, and you've got your angles figured out. You don't have to do any of the hard work and the mathematics behind it. So, right here is where the truck is gonna lay out at. This will give me my bag bracket angle right here, okay? So, should I need to adjust the camber in a little more, all I have to do is just move the mount, but I won't know until I get this all underneath and the wheels on the new suspension that I'm building. But this gives you the gist. Here is the arc of the travel. It won't go any lower than this. So basically, at about 4 inches of travel, we're at the peak of our arc, which is where we want to be. So now as you're driving and your suspension is traveling, your camber isn't changing. Very, very, very minimal. Only until you get almost to where you're bottomed out on the suspension. So we've identified steering location. Again, it doesn't have to be here, but it needs to be inside of this here line. So it could be, you know, down here and mount here. It could be up here and mount here. It all depends on the spindle. But notice how my suspension moves freely. There's no toe in or toe out. This would bind up if there was toe in and toe out. But basically, in a nutshell, this is the front suspension of the Samurai. So there's a lot of behind the scenes shit that I don't want to bore you guys with like figuring out that whole entire table right there. Maybe y'all wanted to see it. I don't know, but I'd rather just draw it out, clear mind, and then show you after the fact. But it really wasn't hard to do. It's just a matter of knowing your numbers is basically all it comes down to. Next day, right here, what I've done is I've laid out my front suspension. I've determined my angles on where my tube needs to be cut. This here is the center mark for my cross member. Our lower will mount around here, our upper will mount around here, and this is obviously plus or minus. So all I've done was, again, I've laid out where everything is sitting, okay? I've determined my angles by connecting the lines, which are these circles here. And now I'm gonna cut out my templates with the jigsaw and I'll transfer it to metal. Morning guys, happy Thanksgiving. Yes, today is Thanksgiving. I'm pressed for time. I've got a bunch of work I want to get done so we can get this video out. Got our pieces cut for our cross member. Got our jig made on the table. Got our pieces cut on the table. Now it's a matter of just connecting the dots. So I made a fixture to rest the cross member on because I have to join the front to the rear. So this will sit the cross member on it while I, will line everything up. And other than that, she's coming along really nice. I got a lot of grinding to do on those pieces right there. So let me get started. Enough of the chip chap. Well, that's one looking really nice. I've just got to make the transition from the rear frame rail to the front. Not a big deal, but yeah, man, I don't have much time. I got to start baking that turkey. I love it, absolutely love it. Here is our front body mount, which is pretty simple to connect from here to here. And I think that's it. Oh, I've got to add another body mount up here, but that we'll do later on. Very nice. Gentlemen, good morning. Man, oh man, look at this shit. Boom. Holy guacamole. Looks good. So I'm at the point where I need to set my caster. Gotta, rotate the spindle, climb up in there, make some adjustments, weld some bars to the spindle, remove the wheel, and then make my control arms. Got my cross member all cleaned up. Got a little more flap disc to do. Messed up on this angle. This was a little more wider. Is what it is. I'll clean it up and fill it in. My coping is all level. Took me a hot minute, but so this is almost ready to go underneath here. I've got to adjust the frame rails, scooch them in a little more. Boop, boop, boop. So the motor can sit in there. Obviously that's too narrow. And once I got my frame rails, set up, then I can actually mount some control arms on there. Man, it is looking so good. God. I just got to marinate on this for a second. First time building a chassis on a table. It is fucking badass. I'm sorry, I had to drop the F-bomb. It is really pretty. Very happy with how it's coming out. I've got to scooch in about a ½ an inch, so I'm not sure yet how I want to do it. Either notch out a ½ an inch, slide it in, and then do some coping, or do a 30-degree cut like this, and then have a piece to go in between. So I'm not sure yet. You'll see soon enough. What's up, guys? I just wanted to go over something real quick while the front half of the frame is out. Currently, right now, we're sitting at positive 2 degrees, and I can simply adjust it by shimming up this here steering linkage. So all I need to do is put a couple of shims under it like so, and you can see how it's starting to change the camber on the spindle. I want 4 degrees. I'm not finalizing anything just yet. I'm waiting on some parts for my upper control arms and lower control arms. Probably ain't gonna be here in time, but at least I have 90% of a suspension mocked up, and it'll come together once I've got all the parts. One more thing I wanted to show. So I've opted to notch out the chassis, and I'll show you why in just a second, but yeah, this is what I was getting into a fight with. Dust and crap everywhere. 3 discs later. So the Samurai has a very specific amount of clearance that has to work with. So the corner of the tire to the corner of the tire cannot exceed 51 inches. If it exceeds 51 inches, it's going to end up rubbing on the hood there and there. So I just don't want to deal with it. You can't trim the hood, but you can trim the fenders up inside there, and there's no reason to trim the fenders because the fenders are square with the body. The hood is not square. That's what's causing the issue. So anyway, 51 inches, corner of the tire, 16 7/8 inside frame rail to inside frame rail, and that leaves us with little to no room for your 4-link bars in the rear. Now I could have scooched the frame in another inch and change, but again, I'm cutting myself short with leaving myself room for my for my 4-link and whatnot. I'm not worried about the rear. I'm going to do a Watts link on this, but I want to mount a cantilever bag in the corner here, so I'm probably going to end up bending a bar on an angle and curving it up and in to mount my 4-link, and then I'll mount another tubular bar from like here to here or something, and stick the bag in between, reinforce it nice. But it's just, everything becomes a challenge because the frame is so narrow, and it has to be narrow because of what it's fitting in underneath. Floor isn't an issue. You can make whatever you want. It's just that hood and the actual size of the Samurai. So I'm gonna continue grinding. I just wanted to point that out real quick. So. Not too shabby, man, not too shabby. Cross members tacked in. My idea came out good. I'll just cope these ends. I'll make a little plate, cap it off, and she should be good, man. She should be good. So it is what it is, you know. It's either narrow the whole entire frame and fight with the 4-link, or, you know, make some caps. And I chose to make some caps, so. Cross member is off a smidgen, like 1/4 of a degree. Not the end of the world, I'm not stressing it. Can't really do much until I get my ball joint cups and ball joints. That's where I'm left at now. Everything has to get made to go. I have my lowers. These are gonna get, probably gonna drill. I'm gonna drill through it. Not sure yet. I gotta figure out where it needs to be. So worst case, I figure out where it needs to be. I break the tacks, I drill it, and then get her set up. But in order to get a 4-degree caster, the upper has to be at 4 and the lower has to be at 4. So I'm not rushing it. This is really important. There's no reason to rush it. It's not like I'm going to be driving it tomorrow or anything like that. So initially I thought I was going to have to create negative camber on the wheels, but I'm at 51. I'm actually at 50.5-ish from the roll of the corner of the tire to the corner of the tire, and that will absolutely work. So I'm not creating negative camber in order to push the lower control arm out a little further. It's just not worth it. I'd rather have the wheels float evenly and look nicer when it's aired out than, you know, having it the other way. So I like it. I definitely can't complain. Definitely can't complain. So I got a lot of work into this video. I hope you guys understand that. You know, it takes a lot of time to get it to where it is right now. You know, there's so much little things that I could have added, but you'd have just been bored. It wouldn't even have been worth it, you know, for me to add it in there. So just do me a favor, man, hit that like button. And just understand that there's so much that goes into this, and sometimes you got to see beyond the fog to understand the big picture. That's all I wanted to say. You know I appreciate you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sir and ma'am, that's gonna do it for this video. Man, I really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, wish I had more time. I wish my parts had come to get this chassis together. It is what it is. I'm so sorry. I feel like I let you all down, but I promise you, when I get home from Puerto Rico, the Samurai will be painted. We'll have all our parts that we're missing. There's so much stuff that's on back order. It's disgusting. Please, smash that like button. Comment down below. Share the channel. That's it. That's all I ask for. Have a great day, guys. I'm going to miss you. We'll catch you real soon. It'll be over before you know it, and I'll have pockets full of money for big projects. Catch you on the next one.